I sometimes read United States Federal Supreme Court opinions for fun, and today I read the ones released. I think I can safely say most of them did not go my way. It's frightening, really, reading stories online and understanding someone's point of view, but then realizing that it is actually happening to you. I mean, folk who disagree with one Supreme Court ruling or another tend to have strong opinions on the matter, forecasting the end of the world as the result of an idea they don't like, but mostly it is more bark than bite. Today didn't feel like that, because it's become painfully obvious that the court has been politically hacked. It was arguing today that allowing DNA testing wouldn't make a difference, but we are going to forbid the testing anyway. Why are they causing harm? Why are they silencing an idea when it doesn't matter? Why are they shattering any attempt at a further investigation if it doesn't matter? The idea itself is inconsistent, causing harm when they say there is no harm caused the other way. The idea itself is inconsistent, and as far as I can tell, the ruling actually boils down to stripping rights away from criminals because they are criminals. There is a serious whiff of treating those condemned by the criminal justice system as subhuman, unworthy of recognition. There was a dissent that held how a court vacating a sentence doesn't actually vacate the sentence somehow. There was another pair of rulings where it was held that because a law wasn't used very much in the 18th and 19th centuries, it should not apply today, and was always unconstitutional. Yet a different ruling, decided on the same day, said that a law passed in the late 1800s was unconstitutional because it was out of date with modern reality. How can both of those claims be true? That old means important and necessary when they like it, and also that old means decrepit when they don't. The rulings consistently give the executive office more and more power, but the person who has repeatedly argued for that disagrees in the singular case of the ADA, social health care. The logic is ridiculous, holding both a certain view and also its opposite, depending on if the judge supports the law the ruling is considering. My mother calls these folks insurrectionists, and I'm starting to believe her, because the blatant obviousness of their political opinions overwhelming a reasoned argument has come out of hiding, crawled up from its dank hole, and whether or not it has gotten there by climbing a greasy pole, certainly seems intent on overturning what they feel was stolen. The neo-Confederacy, the oligarchy of the wealthy, the religious fundamentalists, the states' right folk, have formed an unholy union and seemed determined to overthrow the Republic. Because they want a confederation, a weakened federal nation. Jackson's dissent was fiery and sharp, and she didn't even have a respectfully I dissent, which for Supreme Court opinions is like throwing blood on the page. She lets loose her full rage, warning of the destruction of the rule of law and the Supreme Court's maiming of its own mighty claw. Is this what we are to be reduced to, this nation of ours? Repeating the same problems and issues for 300 years, giving full rein to pilgrims' fears about witches and strangers? People who are different? How is it that the old land of Europe seems now brighter than ours, as we intentionally destroy our own stripes and stars? This country wears its scars proudly, having fought for rights and duties, taking pride in our history and victories against oppression. But there has also always been this undercurrent, where having overthrown the kids of old, the kings, the fools, the even more ancient priests have attempted to rise up and take back their power of command, that power which before written history was taken from them by the kings, and which descended during the Enlightenment into the hands of the people. These priests are not religious in the sense of worshipping a god or casting a spell, but they are the sort of people who would separate folk into only two corps, those worthy of heaven and those doomed to hell. There's no great, no passable, no okay, there's no in-between, there's no compromise they will accept, no agreement they will not betray, and no logic they will not corrupt or pervert in the pursuit of power and authority, land and wealth, claiming rights for themselves and not for others. Down with the stranger and the different and the difficult is their cry. Down with those who on perfection would dare to spy, or recall our previous words, or ask us questions when we have already told them all the answers they need to know. The movement, that movement, is not merely anti-intellectual. It is anti-intelligence flat out, shouting down progress of any sort, declaring that nothing more needs to be done, and life could not be improved in any possible way, not one. And if life can, if the peasants and rebels dare to think that life could be better, then look out. Because, since the immaculate priests like Immortan Joe are in charge, it could not possibly be their fault, and therefore it must be someone else's. Perhaps those in our midst who are of a different race, or who hold to a different creed, or are overcome with the sin of greed, which must, of course, be beaten out of them. The far right and the far left are a circle, which would lock the neck of every human being in a chain, and the lock is in the middle of that collar. The eye is more important than the pyramid on the dollar, for structure and common effort only serves when by doing so our sight is lifted up high. If we cannot climb to the top of the pyramid because those steps are forbidden by those who stand on the mid-step, then we would be forever cursed to exist in its shade, by our own appointed wise men betrayed. That's the worry, that's the question raised here. Is our national law about to fracture in 1,000 ways, treated differently in 1,000 places, applied unequally to 1,000 different people? If I'm nice and quiet and employ a lawyer, none of the rulings today will apply directly to me. For now. Tomorrow, new rulings, that is a different question. Truly, I don't see an entempled Caesar or Alexander on the horizon yet, but I fear that I see the road to one being paved once again. When the Rubicon was crossed, the Republic had been gone for 40 years already.